say your last name on Teams, but we have the microphone there, so she'll be able to hear.
Okay. So move this microphone up. So good morning, everyone. Today is February 19th, 2025. The time is 10:01 a.m. We're here today for a work study session, and we will be hearing from the Elizabeth Parks and Recreation Director, Mike Barney, to hear about the Greater Elizabeth Parks, Trails, and Open Space Master Plan. In this meeting, there will be no public comments, and there will be no decisions in this meeting. Turn it over. Yep.
So, we have Mike Barney with the Elizabeth Park and Recreation District, and Mike.
So let's make sure we're. Oh, he has 7. I'm gonna switch him to 6. There we go.
Okay, thank you. And so again, Mike Barney with Elizabeth Park and Recreation District. Thank you for your time today, Commissioners. I just wanted to take the opportunity just to introduce myself to you, particularly new commissioners. I have worked with Dallas before, and so I do know Dallas, and worked with on election with him, and had the opportunity to get to know Dallas over the last few years. But certainly, introduce myself to you guys and share with you our plans on our master plan that we're working on. And so the Elizabeth Park and Recreation District is currently working with the Elizabeth School District in the town of Elizabeth on a Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails Master Plan, and that's the PROST Master Plan. And we are working with some consultants, and Jenna is listening in, I believe. Does she have the ability to talk or present, or is she just?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
You should. Can you hear Mike, Jenna?
Yes, I can hear you guys. It's a little bit muffled, but I can hear.
Okay.
Just in a couple words here and there, but.
Okay, and can you guys hear her? Okay. All right.
Yeah. So Jenna is leading a consultant team that we're working on, SCJ Consultants, and Paramount. I forget there's another partnering firm with them that's doing some of the design work. But we are looking at what essentially ends up being about the western third of the county. When you look at the school district, and our park and recreation district boundaries really parallel the school district pretty closely. And so, and then of course the town of Elizabeth is just a smaller portion of that. But in our conversations, we really identified that all three of our agencies have a lot of public resources and amenities. And then we also wanted to look at, with the growing population, how do we prepare for the future and get ourselves set up to serve this growing population in that area of the county, in terms of parks, recreations, open space, and trails. And so, certainly wanted to come with you and share that we are engaging in this plan and working on this plan. We currently have a survey out, a community survey that we're trying to get feedback on. Of course, this plan doesn't affect the whole county. But we certainly see our resources as far as park and recreation and open space is something that all county residents are able to take advantage of and use, regardless of whether they're in the district or not. So we really kind of view this as certainly relevant for you guys. I mean, regardless, our district is in part of the county. It's not all of the county, but anyways, you get the idea of that. One of the things that I wanted to specifically ask the commissioners is we had engaged with the previous commissioners, and I think even before Dallas came on as a commissioner, we had talked with them and continued a little bit when Dallas had started. There's a parcel that the county owns south of Spring Valley, and it's where there's a fire district station on there now, and it's about 151 acres, I believe. And so we had been talking with the commissioners about potentially using that or converting that property into like a regional park for kind of the northern area of what would be our district, our park and recreation district, because all of our stuff is really concentrated near the town of Elizabeth right now, even though our service area is much wider than that. And so part of this master plan for us is really figuring out how do we start to serve these other residents that are not just central in the town of Elizabeth, but our district includes Independence and Spring Valley, and goes all the way up there. It will include EC West at some point when EC West is built. And so we really are looking at, we need to come up with a master plan for how we're going to keep up with and provide services for these individuals and these residents. And so that's kind of what the master plan is about. And as we are looking at that 151-acre property, we really see an opportunity there to develop what could be a spectacular regional type park that could serve a lot of that northern area of the district. And so I just wanted to see if there was an opportunity to kind of re-engage with you commissioners now that we have a new group in here, and just kind of get your thoughts on what you may intend to do with that property, and if there may still be an appetite to allow it to be developed into a park site. So that's one thing, and obviously that's not going to be decided today, but again, just to start this conversation. We also wanted to look at, I wanted to see if you guys could provide an update on Elizabeth and the Pines open space. We had worked with the commissioners on that property as well, and the county had concerns at the time about fire mitigation and the property just not being maintained. And we had gotten close to where the county was going to kind of cede that property over to us to manage and take care of. And we had met with residents over there. Residents pushed back with fears of us, kind of creating a park in their neighborhood and stuff like that. And we assured them that that wasn't our intent. The county had liability concerns about continuing to own the property with it not being maintained for fire mitigation and that type of stuff. And so the last I recall, the commissioners had agreed to provide the residents of Elizabeth and the Pines some time to kind of create a group or an HOA that would then be responsible for maintaining that open space. And that seemed like to be a viable solution for everybody, and it was fine with us as well. But I just don't know if the residents have actually followed up and created that HOA and are now actively managing that property and have an agreement with the county, or if that situation is still the same as it is, where that property is just sitting there and not being maintained. So that might be something you guys might want to look into, and maybe review the notes and see if there's still the appetite for us to try to manage that property, or if the county wants to continue to own it and manage it. And then there's also county-owned property off of east and west of Cimarron Park. And so we are looking as a project team about a potential trail corridor that we would love to try to connect Cimarron Park to the high school, and then again work from the high school to connect into the town trail and stuff, and really start thinking about trail corridors and that wash through Cimarron Park that extends east and west out of the park really has some great opportunities to be used as a trail corridor. Of course, it would kind of go up toward 86 and kind of just end there, and we're not going to direct pedestrians across 86 on a trail, but it could be something future if a trail were to extend down 86 and that type of thing. So as far as asks today, that's really kind of what I wanted to present to you guys. And get on your list for something for you guys to discuss and think about, and consider whether there may be some opportunities for us to use some of those spaces for park and recreation resources.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions for you, and talking about this 151 acres out by Spring Valley. So just to give you a little history, I was president for the Spring Valley HOA, the original Spring Valley, for about 8 years. Parks out there are a big topic right now with everybody, and so that would be something I would really be interested in to talk to you about more in depth. I guess, would it be possible, because they need a fire station out there too? Do you think it'd be possible to do a fire station, and because that's 151 acres, and then maybe do a park with it?
Absolutely. There's
away from it. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of space out there. So
There's already a fire station on the property.
yeah, there is. Is it the Rattlesnake? Yeah.
It's a joint Rattlesnake,
Okay.
Elizabeth Fire.
Yeah.
So I can respond to that a bit. There's already been some reservation for rattlesnake fire, as have been discussed. There's deed restrictions associated with that property. It's only usable for certain uses, and it's spelled out pretty clearly. And park and recreation is one of them. I'm not sure that any additional emergency services, things like that, as far as facilities, have been afforded for that. Spring Valley already made
There were some concessions made to even have the current
as part of the
facility.
So.
Thank you for clearing that up. Just want to make sure. And so as I said, no decisions could be made here today, but that's something I'd like to explore too with you.
Yeah, so as a part of our master plan, we have the opportunity to create kind of conceptual designs for some park spaces, and that's one of the properties that we would love to have the opportunity to kind of come back to you and present, say, hey, this is kind of what our vision would be for that space, if you guys were willing to work with us on that. And again, we're not asking you to fund the development of the park and, you know, anything like that, but just to, you know, allow the property to be used for a regional park. You know, we're envisioning kind of a bike park up there because it's a great piece of property that's got some good topography on it. We had explored at one point building a pond on the property, about a 5 to 7 acre pond, and it was viable from an engineering perspective and design perspective. The issue became the water, just the availability of the water, and so we tried to work with Jim Marshall a little bit, and he had some ideas and thoughts, but when they really got down to the quantity of water that would be needed to sustain a pond like that, it just wasn't viable for us to build a lake there or a small pond. But the property does have some great qualities for some park and recreation improvements, such as trails and open space and perhaps even a couple ball fields if there were more artificial turf, again, because water is an issue there. So and again, something like a bike park. So there's, you know, it's a great piece of property, and we would love as a project team to be able to kind of sit down, come up with a design, and be able to bring that back to you guys and for your review, and maybe that would help you make some decisions on whether you would approve that piece of property being developed as a park or not.
No, and from my perspective, from our previous conversations that we've been wanting to look at, exactly how it would be developed, utilized. Make sure we got all our I's crossed, T's crossed, our I's dotted, T's crossed, with the restrictions that are on it. And, you know, as long as we move forward, you know, that's something we're, you know, have always been interested in.
That's great. Thank you, Dallas. Yeah, that's exciting for us.
Mike, you got any comments? Or
Yeah, just real quick, there's always an opportunity to engage. Always an opportunity to approach us. As far as I'm concerned, these gentlemen both seem open to all of your ideas. You got a lot of good ideas. I'm looking forward to working with you and seeing a little bit more. What part of the process are you in for your master plan? As far as it just conceptual at this point? How far along are you guys?
Yeah, so great question. We are currently kind of finishing up our public engagement piece. And so we've done some workshops, we've done some reaching out to different groups and really gathering feedback. We have a survey out right now that we're trying to get as many people within the district to complete. And that survey will be up through the rest of this month. And then after this month, we'll be compiling all the survey data and then really starting then to look at. And we have started done some stuff with trail corridors and looking at possible trail corridors and recommendations for that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But really, as far as developing the plan, we're still kind of in the information and data gathering process, and we haven't necessarily started kind of laying out that plan yet. And that'll begin in the next 2-3 weeks and continue over the next couple of months. Where the project team will be focusing on what did residents say we need. We've inventoried everything and potential spaces, properties, all of that, and so then it'll begin to fitting, okay, these are all the needs that were identified. Now, where does it make sense to fit these needs, and who needs to be served, right? What do we need up in the northern area of the district, or what might we need out east, and that type of thing.
Well, it sounds like some of these ideas could really enhance the county and be beneficial to the citizens for sure. So as you progress in that process, keep us informed, and I would love to hear more about it.
Okay.
At that point, when you get something that you can present to us and say, hey, this is where we're at now, just set another meeting.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. Absolutely. Thank you.
As far as Elizabeth and the Pines, I was under the understanding they were working on something. I don't know if anything formalized ever, and nothing ever happened there. So that may be something we need to reach out again and see where it's at. If Elizabeth Park and Rec wanted to take over maintenance of that, what would this be? Additional trail space? What kind of vision would you have for that space?
Yeah, you know, we would, as we've had said before, we'd really want to work with the residents in that neighborhood to identify what is the best use for that space. And we did hear from them in the past, and they like it as it is, right? And they walk their dogs on it. So for us, it would be, you know, potentially putting a trail around the perimeter and doing fire mitigation. But it wouldn't, you know, we wouldn't be proposing a lot of development in that space based on what we've heard from those residents and what they want that space to be. They like it just open where they could just go, the kids could go play in the nature, and people could walk their dogs and that type of stuff. So we wouldn't really be proposing doing much to it other than, again, mitigating the fire risk and potentially putting a trail or a, you know, picnic shelter on there, something like that. I'd certainly like to talk with the residents and see about, you know, potentially a playground at some point if that's, you know, if there are kids in the neighborhoods, or if grandparents are having kids visit, that type of thing. But it'd be minimal. We're not looking to put ball fields in there or create something that would be an attraction for people from outside Elizabeth and the Pines.
Yeah, if I remember that conversation somewhat, they liked the wildlife, walking through there and being able to interact with a wide variety, I guess, through there. So I think probably reassuring and getting some something firmly written down would probably be important before we would move forward on that. But it's true, we need to make sure that the fire mitigation is taking place on that piece of property.
Yeah, and we've been working with the fire district on our property in Casey Jones Park and Evans Park to do a lot of fire mitigation over the last several years, and they've been happy with our efforts there, and you know, encouraging us and giving us burn permits to do burns in the winter and stuff to keep clearing all that stuff off of the forest floor. So we, you know, help to minimize the risk of a fire, anyways.
Tell me a little more about the Cinnamon Park property and the drainage. You have an ability to make a trail all the way from there to 13?
Yeah, the town also owns some property in there, and so, and it wouldn't be this wouldn't, you know, because it is a drainage, as you mentioned, Dallas, we wouldn't be able to put a permanent concrete structure in there as far as a trail. It would be more of a natural trail, but it's just a great corridor, and it's used now. Much of it is used now for people that live in Cimarron, for riding horses or stuff. But for us to be able to kind of officially designate it as a trail, mark it, keep people off of private properties, and again, allow that corridor that connects from Cimarron to the high school, and then beyond that into town. We just think it makes sense to do that, and it would be helpful for people, and it could be a good recreational trail.
So, believe it or not, I have walked some of the trail from around the town of Elizabeth, up by Running Creek down to the park, and it's good to have those type of facilities. As you go through this with your master plan, are there any restrictions that you're looking at on those trails? Motorized vehicles, horses you mentioned, electric bikes, bicycles are okay, or is it just a regular walking trail? What kind of parameters are you looking at putting around that?
Yeah, we want to try to make as many trails as we can multi-use, in that walkers, equestrian. You know, we like the equestrian thing, because we think Elizabeth has the opportunity to be an equestrian type town where we can connect things and people can actually ride their horse around if they wanted to. You know, so we want to try to provide for that as we can, because we have the rodeo arena, we have trails within Casey Jones Park now that they could ride around. They could ride into Evans Park, and so if they wanted to ride into town, we would like to facilitate that to the extent possible. We want to try to draw the line at motorized vehicles. We like e-bikes. I think e-bikes are great, and then they allow more people to get on bikes and explore, and we don't have an issue with e-bikes. We've had this debate with our board, and from our perspective, we feel that if you have to pedal it, it's a bicycle, right? If there's a throttle, then it's a motorized vehicle. Because e-bikes, they don't, they ideally you have to pedal. They're pedal assist, right? They don't just go on their own. It's not like a motorcycle or a moped. I mean, you have to pedal a little bit, and then the motor helps you get along, so your effort is significantly reduced, as opposed to like an electric motorcycle where you actually have a throttle and there's no pedaling involved. And so that's where we try to draw the line. And it's tough nowadays with so many bikes and different models and types of bikes coming out there. We have to help educate the public in the park sometimes about, hey, you got to keep that in the parking lot and on the roads, and yeah, that's okay on the trails and sidewalks.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but we want multi-use trails that everyone can use. And again, and the type of trail depends on where it's at. Like in that drainage coming out of Cimarron, we can't put a concrete trail in there. So it's, it's not going to be the type of trail where people could go, moms could go walk with their strollers or dads could go walk with a stroller, unfortunately. Unless it's like an off-road stroller.
Motorized.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
I don't have anything right now. I appreciate it, Mike.
Hey, real quick, any other thoughts to additional dog parks? Because the only one I know of right now is by Casey Jones. Have you given any thought to adding that to one of your projects?
We haven't yet, like, because we are still in the kind of information gathering. It'll be interesting to see how that comes out in the survey data, if dog park is something that more people want. We're certainly open to that. We've had some great success with the dog park at Casey Jones Park. It's frequently used. People think it's kind of odd, we don't need dog parks out here. Everyone's got big yards or whatever, but that's not always the case anymore. You look at Gold Creek and some of these other neighborhoods, they don't necessarily have the big yards, and so, or people may not have fenced yards, and so be able to come and take their dog in a fenced area where they know the dog's not going to get away and hang out with other dog owners and spend some time. That we found that there is actually a need for dog parks and an interest in dog parks. So yeah, it'll be interesting on the survey.
Yeah, was that a question that you guys asked, or
Well,
did you kind of leave it open to just say, what do you people prefer? What do the citizens prefer?
It was more open. In some instances, we did list choices of certain amenities and rating them, that type of thing. And I don't recall if we specifically included dog parks in some of those ratings and listings, but there certainly is opportunities for people to say, hey, what types of amenities are you looking for in the parks?
I would think that'd be fairly popular. With some of the subdivisions, they don't, you come home from work and your dog's been in either the yard or crated for the day or what have you. It could be a good draw for a lot of people.
Yeah, in most communities, dog parks are really popular amenities for sure. And so even out here, we find, like I said, ours is pretty heavily used, even in the wintertime. Interesting enough, one thing that's come up is there's a group that's kind of pushing for an archery range, and so they'd like to see an archery range in one of the parks. So there's kind of been an individual that's kind of spearheading that and trying to get fellow enthusiasts excited about that and to provide that type of information on the survey. So we have seen that kind of rise up.
They have that in, I think it's Golden, has a dog park, and right next to the dog park is an archery range,
Really?
and it's fenced, everything's fenced separately, and they have a statue of a deer, or a fake deer out there, and they have guys shooting at it and all this like it's in the wilderness,
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's pretty realistic, and
Yeah.
I think they really enjoy it. And it looked like it was heavily used. We'd go for the dog park, and we saw that there.
A lot of people.
It was interesting, yeah.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought about it, but when someone called and asked about it, and I was like, hey, yeah. I said, that's, certainly something that Parks and Recreation does, So if there's enough interest, that we would certainly be something we could pursue. And so we started rallying the troops. That's the way things get done, right? I mean,
All right, thank you, sir. You got any other comments, anything else?
No, nothing else.
And just one last thing, I guess I wanted to ask about, and this is a little bit beyond my technical expertise, and perhaps Jenna may be able to describe more, but one other thing we're looking at is with trail corridors. And so we have a former planner on our board, and so he thinks, planners think a little bit differently, certainly, than I think sometimes. But, we're in identifying some of these potential trail corridors. And so what we're thinking is certainly within our district, and hopefully at some point even, to expand it outside the district, include more of the county, to really think about a regional kind of trail network. And so the town of Elizabeth has, their trail. We have some trails in our parks, more natural type trails. They have the paved trail. And so we're looking at, how can we potentially connect and allow residents to get from, downtown Elizabeth to Casey Jones Park, or beyond, right? Maybe even someday from like Spring Valley area down to Elizabeth, right? And so we may be reaching out to you, or some project members may be reaching out to some town staff to start to understand kind of what are the opportunities along some of the roads, right? Are there opportunities for trails alongside some of the road easements? Is there space for trails? Is trails not going to work on some of these roads because they've kind of mapped out, the project team's kind of mapped out, ideally it'd be nice to put trails here, and it's primarily along roads where we've kind of identified, but certainly through some developments and So I would just ask if town staff would be willing to work with our project team and really talk about what some of the opportunities may be with some future proposed trail connections and corridors. Because we do find that trails significantly come up and consistently come up as one of the top desires for residents, really, that connectivity and the ability to ride their bike or walk to, to places and via trails as opposed to always having to get in their car. So, and just for recreation and fitness purposes too, I guess, right? People love trails.
Okay, that's it. We'll close this meeting, and thank you for your time today. And time now is 10:26. Fast meeting for the day. Keep it that way. So thank you for coming down. We appreciate it. And this meeting is closed, and we will adjourn.